Residential report writing and case studies. Page 13. Check your understanding. Quiz. Number 1 of 3. Intended to deceive is the definition of, I'm going to go with, hold on. Your options are misleading, fraudulent, confusing, or reporting. I'm going to go with fraudulent. Number 2 of 3. In the reporting of a real property appraisal, it is important that the report is not misleading, fraudulent, or both of these answers. I'm going to go with both of these answers. Number 3 of 3. Bart accidentally neglects to mention a significant subject property defect in his appraisal report. Bart's report would most likely be considered: number 1, USPAP compliant; number 2, or B, misleading; C, fraudulent; or D, a violation of fair housing laws. I'm going to go with B, misleading. Assessment completed. You've reached the end of this assessment. Click Finish below to see the results, or use the previous button to go back and review your answers. 100%. You scored 100%. You needed 66%. Page 14. What is the effective date for this appraisal? The 2020-2021 version of USPAP provides us, for the first time, with a definition of the term effective date. It is defined as effective date, the date to which an appraiser's analysis, opinions, and conclusions apply, also referred to as date of value. Most appraisal assignments will require a value opinion that is of a current date. Often, but not always, this is the date that the subject property is inspected. However, if the assignment is for estate settlement or eminent domain purposes, the effective date may be some date in the past that would result in a retrospective value opinion as of that prior date. If the assignment is for a future effective date, the value would be prospective in nature. A prospective value would involve using historic and current information to forecast a future value opinion. This type of assignment typically calls for additional research and analysis, which is used in forecasting. An extraordinary assumption may be needed when a prospective value opinion is developed. And extraordinary assumptions require clear and accurate disclosure in appraisal reports. More on extraordinary assumptions later. 5. The Appraisal Foundation, Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, Washington, D.C. Appraisal Standards Board, 2020-21 edition, definitions, end of page. Page 15. What type of value is required for this appraisal? This question refers to the type, definition of value needed by the client, not a requested target value amount. Virtually every appraiser is familiar with the term market value. Most appraisal assignments, especially those completed for residential mortgage lending, require an opinion of market value as of the date of inspection of the property. Later in this course, we will look at the definition of market value and all it implies. You need to be aware that there are several different definitions of market value, and you need to ensure that you use the definition of market value that is appropriate for the appraisal assignment at hand. Just as there are several different definitions of market value, it is important to know there are many other types of value besides market value. The type of value must be clarified at the time of the assignment. A sampling of the different types of value is offered below. Book value, insurable value, salvage value, cash value, investment value, economic value, going concern value, leased fee value, assessed value, depreciated value, leasehold value, liquidation value, disposition value. The agencies that regulate our country's financial institutions generally agree that their definition of market value is similar to this one. Market value means the most probable price which a property should bring in a competitive and open market under all conditions requisite to a fair sale, the buyer and seller each acting prudently and knowledgeably, and assuming the price is not affected by undue stimulus. Implicit in this definition is the consummation of a sale as of a specified date and the passing of title from seller to buyer under conditions whereby 1. Buyer and seller are typically motivated. 2. Both parties are well informed or well advised and acting in what they consider their own best interests. 3. A reasonable time is allowed for exposure in the open market. 4. Payment is made in terms of cash in US dollars or in terms of financial arrangements comparable thereto. And 5. The price represents the normal consideration for the property sold unaffected by special or creative financing or sales concessions granted by anyone associated with the sale. 6. 55 ER 34696, Title 12 of Code of Federal Regulation, Part 34, Subpart C, retrieved 9/28/2010 from ECFR GPO access gov, end of page. Page 16, Scope of Work. Being familiar with the appraisal process is one of those essential elements in the book of knowledge for appraisers. All appraisers should know that the first step of the appraisal process is to identify or define the problem. That is followed by the determination of the appropriate scope of work. In the past, this second step was called the preliminary survey, but today it has been modernized and is now identified as the scope of work. To further reinforce this change, there is the Scope of Work rule in the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, USPAP. To determine the appropriate scope of work for the individual assignment, the appraiser must 1. Rely on the information gained in the first step of the appraisal process. Proper identification of the problem is essential. 2. Ensure that he or she has the knowledge, experience, and competency to accomplish this assignment. 3. Determine the client's expectations for this type of assignment. 4. Not allow this assignment conditions to limit his or her ability to arrive at a credible opinion of value given the intended use of the appraisal. 5. Be able to support the decision for the level of work to be accomplished. 6. Be prepared to defend the research and analysis he or she decided was not required for this assignment's credible opinion of value. Communication with the client is vital for gathering all of the necessary information and establishing the parameters for your scope of work. Incorrect or incomplete information provided by the client may lead to problems with the scope of work and may result in the appraiser providing a value opinion that is not credible for the intended use. Example: an attorney engages an appraiser to provide an appraisal on a residential property for estate tax purposes, but fails to provide the appraiser with the correct effective date. The appraiser prepares the appraisal report with a current effective date. However, the effective date should have been June 27th, 2012. Such a miscommunication could mean that the value opinion and report prepared by the appraiser may not be usable. Scope of work is an ongoing process in the assignment. Information or conditions discovered during the course of the assignment may cause the original scope of work to be modified. The appraisal assignment may become more complex than originally contemplated by the client and/or the appraiser. In those cases, the scope of work will have to be changed, expanded, or modified in order to produce a credible opinion of value for this specific assignment. If competency becomes a problem, be sure to notify your client immediately and take appropriate steps to ensure that you can achieve credible results. Keep in mind, the scope of work is the planning stage of the appraisal assignment. It is your knowledge and experience that will guide you through this step. We will cover scope of work in greater depth in a later chapter. Right now, it's time for another brief quiz. End of page.